Today, let's dive into one of the most inspiring stories in the Bible, the story of Zacchaeus and his encounter with Jesus. This is a narrative of transformation, forgiveness, and hope. To better understand the history of Zacchaeus, it is essential to know the scenery of Jericho, where everything happened. Jericho, one of the oldest and most historic cities in the world, was a thriving commercial center in the Palestine region. Its strategic location made it a crucial crossing point for merchants and travelers, significantly increasing its economic and cultural importance. During the period in which Zacchaeus lived, Jericho was under the rule of the Roman Empire, which brought a strict tax system. Tax collectors, or publicans, were responsible for collecting these tributes for Rome, but often charged more than necessary to enrich themselves personally. This practice generated great discontent among the Jews, who saw the publicans as traitors and sinners. Zacchaeus, being a chief of the publicans, accumulated great wealth through this oppressive system. Despite his position and wealth, he was deeply despised by the population, which contributed to a deep sense of isolation and emptiness in his life. This historical and social context sets the stage for Zacchaeus' transformative encounter with Jesus, marking the beginning of a radical change in his life. Zacchaeus was a chief tax collector, known as a publican, in Jericho. His profession made him one of the richest men in the city, but also one of the most despised. The publicans were seen as traitors by the Jews as they worked for the Roman Empire, collecting heavy taxes and often extorting money from the population for their own benefit. Despite his wealth, Zacchaeus lived isolated and marginalized by society. He was a man of short stature, which symbolically reflected his moral position in the eyes of his countrymen. Zacchaeus' life, though surrounded by luxury, was marked by an inner emptiness, a consequence of his dishonest practices and lack of social acceptance. The dissatisfaction and longing for something deeper led Zacchaeus to seek an opportunity to see Jesus when he learned that he was passing through Jericho. Climbing on a wild fig tree to overcome his physical limitation and see Jesus, Zacchaeus demonstrated a rare determination, indicating a sincere desire for change and redemption. Zacchaeus' encounter with Jesus is one of the most emblematic moments of the New Testament. When Jesus entered Jericho, Zacchaeus, ardently desiring to see him, climbed a fig tree due to his short stature and the crowd that crowded around Jesus. To everyone's surprise, Jesus stopped right under the tree where Zacchaeus was and, looking up, called him by name, saying, "Zacchaeus, come down quickly. I want to stay at your house today." This unexpected approach of Jesus changed everything. By being called by name and receiving Jesus' personal invitation to host the Master in his home, Zacchaeus experienced a profound transformation. He came down quickly and received Jesus with joy. This gesture of Jesus, of associating with someone so despised by society, was a powerful sign of acceptance and unconditional love. During the meeting at his home, Zacchaeus stood up and, touched by the presence and words of Jesus, declared that he would give half of his goods to the poor and would repay 4 times more to those who had extorted. This act of repentance and reparation demonstrated a real change of heart, showing that the encounter with Jesus had profoundly transformed his life. Zacchaeus' transformation is a powerful testimony of repentance and change. After receiving Jesus into his home, Zacchaeus, deeply touched by the Master's presence and acceptance, made a radical decision. He stood up and announced that he would give half of his assets to the poor and that if he had extorted someone, he would repay 4 times more. Zacchaeus' commitment was a clear demonstration of his sincere repentance and his desire to correct the injustices he had committed. Zacchaeus' reaction was not just a symbolic gesture, but a concrete action that reflected a genuine inner transformation. He went from a man known for his greed and dishonesty to an example of generosity and justice. This kind of profound change can only occur when one truly meets the love and grace of Jesus. Zacchaeus' decision to repay 4 times as much as he had extorted was in accordance with Jewish law, which required reparation and an additional in cases of fraud, but he went further, demonstrating a true desire to reconcile with those he had harmed. Jesus confirmed this transformation by declaring that salvation had come to the house of Zacchaeus. He affirmed that the Son of Man came to seek and save that which was lost, underlining that no one is beyond the reach of divine grace. Zacchaeus' story reminds us that, regardless of the past, Transformation is possible through the encounter with Jesus, who offers forgiveness and a new direction for our lives. Zacchaeus' story offers profound lessons on repentance, forgiveness, and transformation. First, it teaches us that no one is beyond the reach of Jesus' love and grace. Zacchaeus, despite being a despised tax collector and considered a sinner by society, was personally called by Jesus and had his life completely transformed. This shows us that regardless of our past mistakes, there is always opportunity for redemption. Second, the transformation of Zacchaeus illustrates the importance of genuine repentance. He not only acknowledged his mistakes, but also took concrete steps to correct his injustices by offering generous restitution to those he had harmed and donating half of his possessions to the poor. True repentance is accompanied by actions that reflect a change of heart, highlighting the need to act with integrity and fairness. Finally, history reminds us that the encounter with Jesus has the power to change lives in a radical way. Jesus' presence brought a new purpose and direction to the life of Zacchaeus, who went from a greedy man to an example of generosity and justice. This transformation highlights that by opening our hearts to Jesus and his teachings, we can experience a profound and meaningful renewal in our own lives.